Okay, good evening, everybody. This is going to be my last set of videos, obviously, for Unit 4. And I think these will be pretty concise. I think the material generally in Unit 4 lends itself well to just reading and a little general exposure to the issues. Except for Chapter 15, the VA unit, I'll give a little more attention to because it's very relevant in my practice and most of my colleagues' practices. So everything in Unit 11 is actually really common and relevant, and it lends itself well to reading, and I certainly wouldn't expect anybody to absorb and have all of this stick the first time out. But I did want to reinforce this the topic they bring up about IRAs and understanding them, and I just wanted to mention it because every single client has some kind of IRA, and none of them ever really understand them, and people don't really understand them generally, I've found. And you may have an IRA yourself, so you may understand it well already, but just know this: all of your clients will refer to them differently. They'll call them 401ks or 457s or 403bs or IRAs or profit sharing or some pension, and those are all different versions of IRAs. So an IRA is kind of a broad term for something that you put money in while you're working, and you take money out of it when you're not working, when you're old, to be really brief. And what is unique about IRAs is that you have to pay tax on the income for most IRAs, not all, but most IRAs. When you draw the money out, you have to pay income tax on it. And the idea is, when you're old and you don't have any income, then you don't pay very much tax because you don't have very much income. And when you're young and earning, you get a tax break for putting in there. But you should know just that general idea that all of those things are called IRAs, and it's taxable income. And that's important to old people, they'll be. So, and also know this: when mom names her 3 kids to be the beneficiary of her IRA, and she dies and there's a whole lot of money in her IRA, and the kids divide it up, then they have to pay income taxes on their share. So that's a real common piece, and it's everywhere in the practice. So I just wanted to point that out. And then let me skip to Chapter 12 as well. The one comment I want to make in Chapter 12 about end-of-life decision-making is just to point out in the book does a good job of citing the surrogate decision-maker statute in Illinois. Here's what this is all about. So early in the term, we talked about powers of attorney, and that's core meaty material that we use every day in the practice, and obviously we talked about how important that is. But in the healthcare arena, if you don't nominate someone to be your decision maker when you're unable to make decisions in the healthcare arena, in Illinois at least, a medical professional can, if they figure out you don't have a healthcare decision-making document, a power of attorney, they can look to the people named in the statute and rely on them to give them some direction about what you would want to have happen. So, for example, and I think the statute points this out, if you are unable to give instruction because you're out of it and you didn't make a healthcare power of attorney, then in Illinois, under the law of the surrogate decision maker statute, a healthcare professional can look first to your spouse which is, I don't think, terribly uncommon. But if you are unmarried, then they can look to your adult children and rely on their instruction as to what should be done in some treatment protocol. So it's a good argument for having a healthcare power of attorney, because imagine if you have 5 adult children and somehow a healthcare professional is supposed to figure out what they collectively would want to have happen with you, or some decision with you. You can imagine that that could be not an outcome that you would want, perhaps. But that statute exists, and it at times can be very, very helpful. But know that that's unique. There's no such thing in the financial arena. Unless you have a written power of attorney, you can't do anything. Well, that's not the case in healthcare, in the healthcare world. There's this statute, and I think what it is that we want, or the healthcare industry wants to be able to rely on somebody to give them instruction so they can move ahead. So that's why this statute is in there.